what is your idea about bodhisattva? Well, because of course all of us know that I come from Mahayana. We are raised to be, my teachers always tell us that, oh, we're going to become a bodhisattva. You need to, So what is your idea in Theravada perspective?
What do you feel about that?
Because sometimes I feel shy talking in front of Theravada monks because we always mention that, oh, we have these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. We always connected the name, and they look at me like, what is this talking about? So I feel strange sometimes. So in your opinion, what could you say?
Well, to me, it is like altruism, because it's very high-minded, and it has its beauty, It's inspiring. But also it's another creation of the mind. And so it's not putting it down, but, I think one of the attractions to Mahayana Buddhism is it's inspiring, more inspiring than Theravada. And inspiration is what many of us want, to be inspired. And this is where the mindfulness practice will help you just to observe your own feelings about this idea of the bodhisattva. And it's not to say, it's not about criticizing, just noticing. And trust more of the awareness of it than trying to decide whether you should drop it or carry it on or whatever. It's about just seeing things for what they are, so that you're more confident in being this knowing than in trying to justify or deny the ideal. This you can do. It's not like you have to get rid of the bodhisattva ideal to be Theravada. But if you do think that, somebody tells you that, then that has its effect on your mind. But so trust yourself more to be the observer. When somebody says, "Oh, we don't have the bodhisattvas, it's rubbish, Mahayana, jingle jangle," and how does that affect?
I feel so strange because if you go to Mahayana temple, all Chinese monastics, they make a vow that I'm going to become a bodhisattva or Buddha, not in this lifetime, but in my next lifetime. So I know that you're aware of it. And even my teachers, like all of us are bodhisattvas, and they are dressed as, chant for pusa, chant for bodhisattvas. Like, okay. And all lay people, they want to become a bodhisattva. So that's why I asked this question.
Well, it's another concept to observe.
And my question is, now I'm here studying in a Theravada community. I made a research that Theravada don't really accept Mahayana sutras. And then my teacher really, insists that you should study all the Mahayana sutras. Go to Sutra, Avatamsaka Diamond Sutra. Theravada don't recognize all our sutras.
Yeah, well, how many people really studied Mahayana to know? We all have our prejudices from our religious preferences. So, I read Diamond Sutra and the Heart Sutra, and what's the one they use at City of 10,000 Buddhas?
Surangama?
It's the one that is about this long.
It might be the Surangama. Surangama is the longest.
And they study that. But actually, Master Shuanwa wanted me to give desanas on mindfulness. So, I don't really know because I've not really practiced Mahayana Buddhism, but I never could relate to that side of it because of my character, and I'm brought up in a totally different culture. But the thing that attracted me to Buddhism was this direct approach. Especially like in Zen you get it, and then in Theravada it's very clearly stated. And then Theravadins do have a conceit that Mahayana is all, but nobody really knows. It's just, if you've never studied it, how do you know? If you've never practiced with it, where does it take you? We form opinions about other religions that we don't understand them. Like I was brought up as a Christian, and Christians regard all other religions as inferior, that Jesus is the only way. And then I began to realize that, the Christians I knew didn't know anything about Buddhism, but they could say it's not the way. They didn't know anything about it. So then I thought, well, how can they say anything about something they don't know? It's just a prejudice of a religious group. I realized my mother and father didn't had a clue what Buddhism is, but they had opinions about it, that it's not the way, because that's what Christians believe. And that's a belief, it's only through Jesus that you can be saved. So when I became a Buddhist monk, they were very upset at first. Because I'm a baptized Christian and confirmed and everything. So my mother said, you can't become a Buddhist because you're baptized as a Christian. But later on, my parents became more tolerant because I actually introduced Buddhism into their lives. It's something they didn't know anything about. They just had these religious opinions that you have from your own preference, your own religious preference. And this is where this kind of practice will get you to that center point where you can, it's not about taking sides anymore about Mahayana or Theravada, but just being more awake to the way the mind functions and grasping of views and opinions. And then you see the suffering you create around grasping, you let go. So like the Four Noble Truths is a very very good tool to use. If you believe in Mahayana and then you think Theravada is kind of primitive Buddhism that never developed, when you really look at that opinion, you start observing that view. It's not a peaceful view. It puts you in contrast to something else, like Mahayana is right, Theravada is still dividing everything up, splitting your mind into taking sides. Where with mindfulness, you're actually in a unicity, in the universal wisdom, rather than in intellectual or conditioned preference. Because, in every religion they, Catholics and Protestants and Shia and Sunnis and all the rest they're murdering each other in Iraq and Syria, and they're all Muslims. Because, why? Because they're attached to their own cultural preference, the way they've been conditioned to regard it as a reality. And then, that happens everywhere. Christianity is great for that, isn't it?
Mumbo was saying he's another talk that he can't really straight. He's up in Northern Ireland 50 years ago. And he said he felt like he was completely ignored. Every other place he felt everyone staring at him. He said he realised because he was Buddhist, they were more concerned about if he was Catholic or Protestant. And he obviously wasn't, so he was completely ignored.
Well, even in, Thai forest tradition, we can feel we're much superior to the Wat Ban. That's taking sides, isn't it? Or Tamiyumanikai or Ajahn Chah tradition. I mean, that's the function of thinking mind. It's a divisive, it's a discriminating function. Thinking is about right and wrong, good and bad, true and false. These are all, if you have one concept, you have to have its opposite. And so, then the thinking mind is its function in the universe is to discriminate. This is bigger than that. This is better, that's worse. This is, the thinking mind is that's what it's for, is discriminating the conditioned realm. So it functions on that level. But you get beyond the thinking mind, there's still consciousness. You can stop thinking and still be conscious. Mindfulness. And then you've got perspective on the conditioning, like we've all been conditioned, culturally conditioned, socially conditioned, so we have, the families we're born into, we're conditioned by what our mother thinks, or father, and the social group we're in, what class we align with. We're conditioned to believe that I'm a man and there's men and women. We're conditioned to think I'm this body, male body. And it's not that these are wrong, but this is conditioning. It's made up by human beings who are unenlightened. So it's conventionally workable, but it's not ultimately real. So like Ajahn Chah would emphasize all the time about Paramatta Satya and Samuti Satya. Like Paramatta Satya is ultimate reality and Samuti is conventional reality. So like the Vinaya is conventional reality. And then the high culture is conventional reality. Or Mahayana Buddhism, Theravada, these are conventions. They're conventions, they're formed, they have shape. So there is a difference between Mahayana and Theravada. There's a difference between Sunni and Shia, and then we're conditioned to identify with them, and which is the best, which is the real, true Buddhism, and which is the false. And we take sides through thinking, through the discriminating, conditioned mind, and then once we see the suffering that we create in our minds through that, it doesn't mean we discard conventional reality, but we're no longer kind of enslaved to its, out of ignorance, to seeing things only from a conventional bias, through a conditioned perspective. Because you're in tune with ultimate reality. You've gone through the gate of the deathless. So Amatassa Tawara, the door to the deathless. And they talk about the deathless. Like Mara is about death. The word Mara in Pali is the word for death. And then Amatassa Amarovati, the deathless. Now, you can't conceive deathlessness. You have the concept, but you can't imagine it. Never dying. You can maybe even wish to never die and live forever, but that's the creation of the mind. But, in conditioned phenomena is about dying. It's all birth and death. Whether it's an emotion or a thought or, conditioned phenomena, that's its nature. As long as we're attached to conditioned phenomena, then we're attached to death is our final moment. That's the end. And then we have hopes that I'll go to heaven or become a bodhisattva or be reincarnated as a Buddha or whatever. But that is still the thinking process. And so the Buddha established this teaching on something that is very recognizable in the present, like suffering, to save us from trying to get caught up in our minds about the nature of life, the meaning of life, what happens when you die, and all the rest of it. And notice, like, the pronouns we have is I and me and mine, and these tend to always define ourselves as a form, as a physical form, as this is mine and that's yours, and I'm an American, you're Filipino, this kind of thing is like, these are conventional workable realities, but they're not ultimately true. You see, if people really observe this, a lot of the, like war and all this economic, the obsession with materialism and trying to make money and free market capitalism, where you're constantly trying to make people discontented and greedy. Advertisements are set up to make you greedy for something. And so our culture is based on this need to make us very greedy for everything. It all looks good, and this year's model is, improvement on last year's. And so this appeals, it's based on what is better, and it's modern, and it's progressive. These words, that's how they affect your mind. That you can know. But the society we live in is like this. Capitalism is like this. It's not a judgment. It's just a willingness to open to this concept and the kind of attitudes of the present age that are promoted through the society. Not that we have to make judgments, but we can see how they affect us. Like if you get caught up in those ideals, then you'll never be content. And then the seminal life is about being content with very little. So and even in the Sangha it works, that monk has a cell phone and makes me, I want one. And so this is, I've been envious of other, when stainless steel alms bowls came into being, I remember I wanted one. My alms bowl was actually good enough, but it created this desire, because stainless steel wouldn't rust. And so even, this greed is aroused even through, the envy of some other monk. But at least you can use it as awareness. See, it's not you're taking the personal feeling of it by observing it.